Welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part 6 of the Sherman M4A3 build. If you notice, my last video was kind of truncated in its ending and didn't really make a whole lot of sense, so hopefully this will blend right in, but I basically had to cut the video way down because when I got it all uploaded to my laptop, it was over 2 hours long. And I think that's a bit much. So anyway, this will pick up right where I left off. I think it was working on the turret. So let's continue. Okay, I've pretty much got everything sanded down on the sides. Excuse me. So I need to get this foundry mark cleaned up a little bit more, because I'm going to be using one of the resin ones in its place. And I'm also going to glue the okay, I'll sand that down a little bit, smooth it out. I'm going to glue the ventilator cover on the back because I want to make sure that, let's see, that's Z21. Let me cut that off, because I want to make sure that is cohesive with the rest, because this should have some texture on it as well, and that's really smooth. So I'm going to glue it in place, and then I can texture around it, because if I don't, it may not glue on there very well. Yeah, that'd probably be alright, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cement that in place. If fitting goes here, I will do that separately because there's not going to be any texture there. But I'll go ahead and glue that right there. That way I can texture it all at the same time. So while that's drying a little bit, I'm going to cut or finish sanding off where that foundry mark was above the pistol port, or whatever tarnation that is. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that looks good. All right, so that's all done. So now I'm ready to start texturing it. You know what though? I think what I need to do is I need to put this and the side pieces in place, because these need to be blended in with the sides here, because as you can see, they fit like that, and that seam is going to have to be dealt with. You know, it's not going to be able, I'm not going to be able to leave that there. So I'm going to glue that in place. Now I wonder if I could glue the one and then glue the other one, because it's really hard to hold all these parts together. Yeah, I think I'm going to glue this first. Yeah, so hold that in place. Like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Make sure that's in there really good. Oh yeah. So I'm going to hold this for a few minutes and let it solidify really good, and that way I won't even have to fill in any seam there. Alright, so this is glued on. Now I went ahead and glued this on here, and as you can see, I was able to get that pretty well in there, so with just a minimal a minimum of work, I'll be able to get that smoothed out, and then once I put the cast texture on, it'll be a lot better. So I already test fit this one, and I trimmed just a little tiny bit off of this edge here, so it would fit in there a little better. Okay, so that way once I get the cement on there and I get it smashed into place, it'll be good. So one important thing I need to do is make sure I don't forget to put this on here, because, you know, it'd be a real bummer if I glued it in there and forgot that part. So let's put it right here like that. Okay. And I should be okay as far as this part not getting any cement on it. Need to make sure I get plenty in there. And then press it on home like that. Whoa, hand slipped. Crikey. Oh yeah, see, that looks good. That's good. All right, so that is good. And then I'll just smooth that out a little bit, and then I'll put my cast texture on there. As far as that goes, I think that's all the parts that I'm going to be putting on there. Prior to doing the cast texture. This part smoothed out, so I'll be putting that part on. I kind of have to decide if I'm going to do the cast texture on the roof or not. So I need to kind of look and see. J22. Excuse me. Let's see. J22. I'm going to add cast texture to this, but I'm going to do it on the sprue. I'm not going to do it on here because I don't want to take a chance of it getting in the seams and stuff like that. So I'll be doing that as well. So I think that is what I will be doing next, is the cast texture. So let me kind of get that ready to go. All right, so I've got my stuff all mixed up. I also need to do the mantlet. I want to do the mantlet, get a little bit more texture on that, and see what that looks like. Now, according to stuff I've seen, some of these mantlets, especially on these particular vehicles, don't have any markings on them. So I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that's the way I'm going. Now first I need to, there's a seam right along the top edge of this, and I need to get rid of that. Or at least smooth it out some. It's a molding line. That's a lot better. Use one of my older brushes and brush any dust off. Not that it'll make that big a difference. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this first. Whoops. I hope I won't bang my camera mount too much while I'm doing this. As you can see, I've moved around my camera mount a few times in this this particular video. I'm trying to get a good balance, because like if I'm holding stuff up in the air, I end up going off screen. If it's on, you know, if it's on the desk surface, it can go off this way. And I'm trying to get a balance and trying to pay attention, trying to focus on giving you my my eyeball point of view. How I'm seeing it, I think, will make it a little bit better. As far as the point of view you guys are getting, so you can actually see what I'm doing, because I noticed I went off or went out of frame a few times, and I just want to avoid that. There's nothing more frustrating than watching a video and have them going, oh yeah, this looks perfect like this, and then you never see it. And it happens, and I'm not complaining that anybody does that, because I do it all the time. I can freely admit I'm a bonehead at times. Just ask my wife. She'll tell you. Just kidding. So we'll just put that on there like that. So you get the idea. So I think I'm going to do the majority of all of this off camera, because you can see exactly what I'm doing, and I'm doing the same thing all over the turret, the mantlet, and that pistol port hatch. So I don't want to take up a whole lot of video time doing this. Now you will notice that I'm being real careful around raised detail, and I'm trying to keep it right up against the edge without actually getting on the detail. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and continue on with this, and come back after I've got it done. Alright, a little jumping around here. So where I left off a second ago, I was doing the cast texture on this, and I used the same technique on this. I did the same thing as I did elsewhere. Here I did for the top of the turret and here. So now with all that, I'm ready to start adding more parts. So I think first I will do the periscopes. So we got G1 goes on this side, G2 goes on that side. So I will cut those off. Put them on the appropriate side. So I can get those cleaned up, and then I'll also make some masks for the lenses of the periscopes. Okay, so get some tape over here. So real quick like, I'll work on that, get that stuff cut out, and then come back. All right, so I have this first one in place. So I'm gonna chuck a little glue on here. That, and then put this one in. Oh my goodness. Put this one place here. More glue there. Okay. All right, so there's that. So then we need J22, which is not on that. It is on this, which is the pistol port cover. That's been pre. Now, once I put a coat of primer on here, I may have to do a little changing of the texture. I mean, it looks pretty good in the gray primer, but I won't be able to tell for sure until after I spray it. But it looks pretty good. Excuse me. All right, so next we need J10, which is the lifting eye right there. Now, in messing around with this, as you can see, I broke one of these off, so I'm going to have to come up with something else. But I've got plenty of spare parts, so I should be okay. Okay, J10. This part. A little bit of sanding. Like that. And this one, it has a pin on one side and not on the other, so you need to make sure you put it on the right way. So we'll put a little bit of cement on there like that. Add a little bit more just to make sure. It's on there good. All right, so then next we need, let's go with C61, which is the little doohickey. that goes in front of commander's hatch. I think it's a some kind of a I don't know, manual sight or something like that. Can't remember off the top of my head. There's a pretty good seam line there, so you gotta make sure that's flattened out pretty well. And on the front as well. And I want to get it here as well because this is on the top where it can be seen. All right, so that goes on there. Oh man. Now once that dries really well, I'm going to clean this upper edge here a little bit more. Okay, so there's that. Then we need J9 and J12. J9 goes on that side, J12 goes on that side. Apparently, you can switch it around if you so desire. So there's that. That's 9. And there's 12. Whoops. And cut that off there, and we're good to go. So we'll put that there. Hopefully, messing around with this, we'll break it off. It's pretty thick though, so it should be good. Antenna base there, and then this piece goes over here. Now that hole is not, that hole needs to be drilled out. Either that or this cut off, set on top. I think that's what I'm gonna do, probably be easier. All right, there's that. So that pretty much takes care of all of the first part of the turret assembly. So the next part is more of these other parts here, which includes, now that I've got all that installed, I can put the commander's cupola on there and the loader's hatch there. So I need those parts. I also need part J26 and J27, which are these parts that go onto the ventilator cover. So we need 26 and 27. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these parts cut off for that that next batch of parts that need to be assembled, and then I'll come back and we'll glue them on. All right, so I got these parts glued together and on there. This cover that goes over the periscope in front of the commander's hatch, which I guess would be the gunner's position. That's, oh my word. Well, there's a pin on here, but there's no corresponding hole on that cover, so I'm going to cut the pin off. And just put it in place. Thusly. Put a dab of cement on that side, and that side, and make sure it's pressed firmly in place. All right, so next we can do the hatch. So that goes there, and then this hinge piece goes there. Make sure that's pressed firmly in place. That. Now I'm going to put a little bit of cement on the inside to secure that hatch because I don't want it flopping around. Okay, let that cure up for a minute. All right, while that hatch is setting up, I'm going to install this little teeny tiny hatch retainer clippy thing. That goes right there. That is one little tiny part. And I put it on the wrong direction, so I'm going to spin it around like that. Put some more cement on there. Let that cure up for a sec. Okay, so the next part, I've got the first spring cut off, and there's a pin on the bottom of this part here that fits in that little hole. that side goes back there, so this is going to be a little tricky. Let's see if I can get it the first crack. Oh man, look at that. Oh man. All right, so there's that one. And I'll chop off the other. You gotta be really careful with these two because they are ultra delicate. Very, very, very small piece of plastic. How they can mold stuff like this is beyond me, but hey, they do a stellar job. Alright, so we got that one in place. That. Alright, so there's that. So the only other piece left is to glue Commander's cubozoid on there. And let's see. That side. That side. So there is that. Now the last thing it shows is to glue the gun in place, but I'm going to hang tight while all this stuff dries up and look for a part for this. Okay, with those parts glued onto the turret, I did have to glue, I did this off camera, but I forgot to glue this like little hasp type thing on the loader's hatch. It's just photo etched, just like normal, has a little bin mark, and it's got a little mark outlined where it goes. So that's done. So the next thing I want to do is I want to tape everything off, mask everything off for eventual painting. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm letting some of that stuff dry. So for here, I just cut some Tamiya tape into a size appropriate to fit along right here where the parts glue on. Like that. Okay, and then for the bogey itself, I'll just get a piece of Tamiya masking tape about a ½ inch long, maybe. And I just put that in place here. I don't go all the way down, just where it contacts the hull. Just kind of mash into place. Then I use a sharp knife and cut along the edge in the shape of the bogey, like that, and then cut across the top. And a sharp knife really helps. Okay, so that's ready to go. So that way I have good bare plastic for when I glue those parts on. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to glue the rest of the parts on the back of the turret. So I've got these lifting eyes, which I probably should have done before I did my texture, but I didn't, so I'm gonna have to glue it right on top of that. And then the mounting hardware for the machine gun storage. Now, I'm thinking about storing the machine gun on those storage brackets. But I'm going to glue these parts on first and kind of see, and I'll decide from there. So let me cut those parts off, and those parts are 2 C55s and a J20. 2 C55s. C55 right here. C55s. And then the other part is J20. Let's see. J20, which is this part here. These parts are pretty fine, so make sure you take it easy when you're cutting them apart. And you don't want to mess them up, and make sure that, whoops. Make sure that it's sanded flat. There's no mold seams on this, so that's good. All right, so those have to go in here. So, cat hair on my desk. All right, so we need there's little markings on these pieces of angle sticking out. So one goes there. Okay, here is a quick note. So I am going to mount this as if it was stored, the 50 caliber. Now, there's something to note here. Now, hopefully you can see this. Okay, I'm assuming that this in real life would be like a spring steel type material, and that the barrel would kind of snap into place. Now it does, but you have to be careful, because if you just try and snap it in here in these flat spots, it'll go, but it will bow the bottom of this where you won't get good contact on the bottom for the cement. So using this very fine file, what I discovered is if I put it in position there where the machine gun barrel would be, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but down there where the barrel would be, or whatever, and then just spin that like that, it'll bore it out a little bit without destroying the detail. I mean, you could cut them out, but then there wouldn't be anything there. And if somebody looked real close, they might say, hey, what happened to that? So I decided to do this just so it'll look like it's fit in there like it should be a little bit better. So just spin that around just enough to basically create some notches in there. And then it will fit down in there like that, and it's still somewhat flat on the bottom. So if it looks like it's not flat enough, bore it out some more, because you need that to be a good contact point. You need plenty of surface, because this is a really small part. You need plenty of surface contact on these parts here. And by doing it this way, you keep that part flat, mostly flat. And then it's just a matter of making sure these are level. I'm going to bore this one out just a little bit more because the muzzle of the barrel's on this end and it's a little bit larger in diameter than this back here. So, and again, you could just cut those little flat parts out and, you know, probably nobody'd really know, but, you know, I'm trying to get this as close as possible. All right, and then just make sure that I made sure that the top edge had the seam lines sanded off, and just make sure that your spacing is make sure the spacing is correct and it's level. And exercise patience because, oh my lord, because there we go. All right, then make sure it's lined up properly there and there. Using your handy dandy cement. That. And like that. For this, I was using regular Tamiya extra thin, not the quick setting, because I want to give myself a little bit of time. That, and I'm getting pretty low on that quick setting, and I'm getting tired of having to shake the bottle around and make all that clattery, clacky noise to even get any on the flipping brush. So once that is in position, make sure this one's anchored. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Make sure this one's anchored down there. And then this piece goes here. All right. And this part goes there like that. Make sure that is level. Make sure it's anchored on good if you're doing this, because that's where the receiver of the M250 caliber is going to go. So you want to make sure that's all glued in there really solid. So there's that. So I'm going to let that sit and dry really good before I proceed. All right, with that glued in place, the next thing I'm going to do is glue these lifting eyes. Those are D6. So I'll cut both of those off. Like that. And then sand those up. Get these all smoothed out. seam off of there. All right, then they go in a specific place, and shows you right here where they go. So it goes just about even forward of that round place where the antenna goes, and right about halfway up on this. So right about there. So I think since that cast texture's on there, I think I'm going to use the medium super glue, and I've already got some on my little container here, so let's see if it's still, yeah, okay, so then so it goes right about there. So that one goes there, and this one will go likewise on the other side. So right about there, make sure it's be a little bit lower. And that's the nice thing about this medium super glue. Give you some time to move it. There we go. All right, so that goes there. So the last thing to glue on the turret is the main gun. So for this, there's two pins there and there, or two holes and then two pins, and you need to make sure that you get it going the right way with these facing up. And as you can see, I was able to repair that. Okay, so that fits on there like that. All right, so I think for this though, I'm going to use my thicker Model Master cement, because I want to make sure I got some working time. I want to make sure it sticks well. So we'll get that on there like that. Wipe the tip of the applicator off there, and then make sure that's pressed on really well. I'm probably not sure yet, but I may have to glue, because of the weight of the barrel, I may have to glue the inside of this to keep the barrel from flopping around. It'll just depend on if it hangs down too much. So we'll let that dry for a bit. All right, while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and put together the, or I'm going to cut the parts off for the machine gun, get those all cleaned up and ready to go. All right, all the parts are cut to assemble the machine gun, and there's the parts. Now, as you notice, there's no barrel because the barrel is there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue the ammo box together. So I'm just going to kind of hold it together like that. Put some of the old handy dandy cement in here. Give it a squeeze, make sure everything's lined up. Now I'll have to sand this on the bottom. I'm going to wait till that dries really good to do that. And then let's see. So the lid goes on like this. Sure that's lined up. All right, so we'll set that aside to dry. So next, let's see, I think I'll do, I'm actually supposed to do the charging handle and all that stuff first, but I think I'm going to do the cradle first, because that's the part that's, you know, kind of closest in. It won't get damaged, hopefully. So and it fits like that. It's kind of hard to show you what it looks like because it's so, you know what, actually, I think I'm going to glue the receiver cover on here first. Fits right there like that, and just like that. Let's put a little cement on that. That fits really tight on there. So we got that. Okay, so let's get back to this. Let me turn it upside down so you can actually see what's going on here. not a real precise mounting point, but it looks like, I don't know if you can see it, but these little ears right here fit in the back, you know, along the back edge of this here. So we're gonna go with that. See, that's the way it goes. Actually, I could probably glue these two parts together first, because it sure doesn't look like it's going to be any easier gluing them onto the machine gun themselves. Let me monkey around with this and see the best way to do it. Alright, so I'm going to give it a shot here on camera and we'll see if it works. First we do that side there. Now it's not bottomed out where it needs to be, but that's okay, because the main thing I wanted to do is get those two parts together. Then now that's together, let's try and glue it like this, I guess. This is really tricky. So get that glued there. Alright, that is together, so I'm going to let that dry really good before I try and actually mount it onto the machine gun. So we'll let that sit for a few minutes. While that's drying, I'm going to glue this little part here on here. So I don't know how many of you have been building models for very long, but back in the old days, like 70s and 80s, more so the 70s, I guess, this whole machine gun would be, and the mounts and everything would be molded in one big blob. No little parts, no little things like that. And the only part you had to actually glue on there would be the you didn't have to glue it on, you could just, it usually just snapped into place. But that would be the actual mount that allowed the machine gun to swivel up and down. That was it. That's all you had to do. Not anymore. You gotta have all these little teeny tiny pieces to put together with these big old meat hooks I call fingers. It's like putting together little small parts using hot dogs for sticks. Alright, so we'll let that dry now. And then we can come back and maybe assemble all this stuff. I'm ready to put this cradle on here. And tip of the day, you should always make sure you're putting it in the right direction. I had it completely backwards. Yes, I did. I am a bonehead, and I freely admit it. So, just a little tip there. That's free, no extra charge. Tip of the day. Now it fits like a champ. Alrighty then. And a lot of you are probably watching that have built Shermans before, and you're probably just laughing your heads off. And that's cool. I can take it. Alright, so there's the cradle. So now that's in place, we can start gluing some of this other stuff. So let's glue the charging handle on here. And that goes right here in that little teeny tiny hole. This little teeny tiny pin. And let's see, the angle, it should be it's kind of a little bit forward. So that goes there like that, but it's not going to stand up on its own, so I'm going to have to put a little bit of cement on there and then put it into place. So let's get a little bit of cement. Let's put it on there like that. And let's put it right there like that. Oh, look at there. Like a glove. Needs to be a little straighter though. So let's attempt to twist it up like that. There we go. Oh man, that's perfect. Alright, there that is. So I'm going to put a little bit more cement on there just to make extra sure. Alright, so then the next thing I need to do here is launch that across the desk and then glue it in place right there. So for that, I'm going to use this cement. That. Oh man, that is splendid. All right, so we're good there. So we got that. So next, let's clean this ammo box up a little bit. We need to sand the seam on the bottom. Since it's flat, we can do it like that. Oh, done. Get the little fuzzies off the edge. Like that. And then this here, this is actually going to be up against the machine gun, so I'm not going to worry about getting all up in there in the little spots, but I will get this down here and smooth that out a little bit. All right, and then this, I need Z19. All right, the next two parts that are supposed to be glued on are Z21 and Z19, and you're supposed to, according to the instructions, you do 21 first, 2 second, and then you can put the ammo box on. So this goes in that upper hole on that cradle, like that. And this mounts, there's very, very tiny pins there and very tiny holes there. So it goes like that. So I'm going to hold that in place. Some cement on that side there. Hold it. Let it cure up. Get that like that. Now we're going to let that dry up a bit before we put the ammo box on there. Alright, now that's set a little bit, and I've changed my camera angle a little to accommodate a better view. That there's a little tab right there that fits right in there, and you know what, I am going to have to clean this out better, so I'm going to go ahead and do that just like that. Make sure it's crisp and clean, no caffeine, and that will glue right on there like that. So let's get a little bit of the old cemento on here, like that. Make sure it's nice and square. And that is how they say that. That right there is crooked, and that's going to bug me. Okay, that's a little better. Yeah, there we go. All right. So now that is ready to mount in the back of the turret. And what that does is, first I need to clear out these holes. So that fits in there like that. And that fits on there like that somehow. So I'm going to have to monkey around with it and see exactly how it fits in there, so I can make sure it's right. And I don't know if you guys could hear my lovely wife in the background saying, "Do you have it on upside down again?" So, yeah. So anyway, let me take a look at that. Right, this is going to be tricky, but here we go. That. And glue that. And hope it stays together while it dries. Alrighty then, that looks pretty good. So let's let that dry, and then we should be getting close to being done with some of this stuff. Alright, so I think the last thing I'm going to need to do to the hull before it's ready for paint, that kind of thing, is I need to modify something. Now on here you can probably barely see, but these are little grab handle, not grab handles, but I think I've heard them called footman loops or something like that, but it's from Voyager. They're called U.S. military vehicle hooks, and basically they're hooks that, you know, they loop straps and stuff around like that. So I need to carve those off, and then I'm going to use these here from Voyager model, and make some to glue on there, so whenever I put the straps on for the tools, they'll fit. So it's real simple. I probably should have done this before, you know, I assembled all this, but hey, I didn't. So basically just gonna carve them off there like that. Just make sure it's real flat, and it's leaving a ghost of an impression, so I'll know where to replace them. And they're real simple to use. Alright, since this is so difficult, I'm just going to explain how you do it. Okay, here's the finished product here. All you do is cut one of these off. Make sure it's trimmed up nicely. Then you lay it across this right here. Then, in my case, I'm using an eraser on a pencil. Come down from the top, just push, and then rock it back and forth to really mash it into place there, and you'll end up with this. Okay? Then, simply, and I say simply, and I don't mean it, get some of the old super glue on there. In my case, I'm using gel super glue. And drop it in place where you want it. Position it. Make sure it's firmly in place, and boom, you have those nice little loops there, instead of the molded on plastic ones that won't do you any good. So whenever I put the tools on here, I'll be able to actually make some belts and loop them through. So that takes care of that. All right, since all of the stuff's done on the rest of the kit, except for the tools, which I'll do later, it's time to glue the tracks together. Now I've already glued these two segments together and these two segments together because they come in 4 segments. The reason I did is I had to see what kind of glue I needed to use. And in this case, I had to use super glue, and I used my medium. Now I thought that these were gluable with like Tamiya extra thin or something like that, and they are not. I tried it, didn't even touch them. So they're not like, say, Dragon DS tracks, not the same thing. So I used super glue, and that looks like it's done a pretty good job. So it's real simple what I did. I just got some on my gel super glue custom applicator tool, and just spread a nice film on the whole thing. Now what I'm going to do is, whenever I do paint these and I install them, I'm going to make sure that I don't install this part over the drive sprocket or over the idler, because I don't want to take the chance of it, you know, in flexing, cracking the stuff apart. Now it probably won't, but no sense in taking a chance, because I'd be really sad. So just put it together like that, and then using my handy dandy tool for holding tracks together while they dry. I don't know if I've said it already, but I cut the profile from just regular clothespin or clothes peg, whatever you call it, depending on where you live in the world. I cut it to where it would fit in between the guide teeth here, guide horns, whatever you want to call them, to keep it from smashing those down. They'd probably spring back, but no sense in taking a chance. So I'll let that one dry. I'll glue this one, and that will be that. All right, so here's how it sits right now. All the construction's done. Tracks are together and ready to go. The super glue worked great on that, so I don't have to worry about those popping apart, I don't think. I am waiting on some Periscope guards. There's some that came with the kit, with the other photo etch, but they're super fragile and they're ultra delicate. So I'm going to save those as a last resort, and use the ones that are coming. So I just have to wait for those to get here. So that will take care of that. And then I was looking in my spare stuff here, and I have an old fret from, I think it's a Dragon T34, but it comes with some pretty nice photo etch straps here and here. So I should be able to use those for the straps for this instead of tape, but I'll science around a little bit with those and see if it'll work. But for now, I'm going to end this video here. The next time I come back, it will be to add those final few pieces, see about adding those, and then we'll be ready to start with primer and paint. So that's it for this episode of the Asuka 1/35 scale M4A3 project, and thanks for hanging around and watching. If you have any hints, tips, suggestions, or any of that kind of stuff, please put them in the comments below, as always. And also, as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.